At dawn, the factory gates opened like a jaw. Every morning, hundreds of Filipino workers stepped inside, knowing exactly how much their labor was worth and how little they would be paid. What none of them knew was that one thin pay envelope, lighter than usual, would begin a silent revolt that no manager, accountant, or foreign owner saw coming. The factory sat on the edge of an industrial zone outside Manila, concrete walls streaked with rust and heat. It produced electronic components shipped overseas, stamped with precision and profit. The owner, Mr. Leong, had arrived from China 5 years earlier, praised locally as an investor bringing jobs, discipline, and efficiency to a struggling workforce. Inside, the rhythm was unforgiving. Conveyor belts hummed, soldering irons hissed, and time was measured in quotas. Workers stood for 10 hours, sometimes 12, eyes fixed on parts smaller than coins. Breaks were timed. Conversations were discouraged. Overtime was mandatory. Pay, everyone knew, was calculated in ways no one was allowed to question. Mr. Leong rarely walked the floor. When he did, managers followed closely, translating his clipped instructions into softer Tagalog. He spoke often about global competition, rising costs, and sacrifice. He reminded them that factories in other countries paid even less. Many workers nodded. Jobs were scarce. Complaints were dangerous. Among the line workers was Lorna, a 39-year-old mother of two. She had worked there since the factory opened, her hands permanently marked by small burns. She never missed a day. Her husband drove a tricycle. Her wages paid school fees, rice, electricity. Every payday mattered. Every peso had a destination. Payday came every other Friday. Workers lined up at a narrow window where envelopes slid out one by one, stamped with names. No explanations, no breakdowns, just numbers. People opened them later, quietly, calculating in their heads. They had learned not to react. But that Friday, Lorna noticed something different. Her envelope felt thinner. She waited until she reached the jeepney's stop before opening it. Inside was her pay, neatly folded. She counted once, then again. It was short by almost a day's wage. At first, she assumed a mistake. Overtime adjustment. Perhaps, but when she asked others, their eyes avoided hers. By evening, whispers moved through the neighborhood. Several workers were shorted. Not all, but many. The amounts varied. No memo had been issued. No explanation given. Some shrugged it off, afraid. Others told themselves it would be corrected next time. Lorna went home silent, her children doing homework by candlelight. The next Monday, she went to payroll. The clerk did not look up. Deductions, he said. Efficiency penalties. Late minutes. Output variance. The words were unfamiliar, but final. When Lorna asked for a written explanation, the clerk slid the envelope back toward her and called the next name. That afternoon, Mr. Leong held a brief meeting. Through a translator, he spoke of global pressures, of currency fluctuations, of workers needing to improve discipline. He did not mention the missing wages. He ended by saying the factory could relocate if costs became unreasonable. The room was silent. No one raised a hand. Over the next weeks, the deductions continued, inconsistent, unpredictable. Workers began keeping notebooks, writing down hours, overtime, piece counts. Quietly, carefully, during lunch, comparisons were made in whispers. Patterns emerged. The factory was paying less, but production targets had not changed. Profits, they suspected, were rising. Lorna started photocopying her envelopes at a small shop near the gate. She did the same for others who trusted her. Dates, amounts, hours. She did not speak of protest, only of records. In a country where confrontation often meant dismissal, documentation felt safer. It was slow. It was patient. One evening, an older worker named Mang Efren showed her an envelope from 6 months earlier. Same hours, same position, higher pay, no penalties. They placed the envelopes side by side on a plastic table. The difference was undeniable. It was not error. It was policy, quietly introduced, carefully obscured. Management noticed a change in atmosphere. Productivity dipped slightly. Eye contact vanished. Mr. Leong increased floor inspections. New cameras appeared. A memo warned against disruptive behavior. No names were mentioned. Everyone understood the message. Fear returned, but it no longer erased memory. The notebooks remained. Then, on a humid Friday, something unexpected happened. A junior accountant made a mistake. One envelope, meant for a supervisor, was handed to a line worker. Inside was a breakdown sheet. Line items, percentages, efficiency deductions applied across departments. The worker showed Lorna before returning it, hands shaking. The sheet confirmed everything. Deductions were standardized, unannounced, and ongoing. More importantly, they violated minimum wage regulations when combined. Lorna did not copy it. She memorized it. That night, she visited a former co-worker who now volunteered with a labor assistance group. She brought the envelopes. No protest was organized. No walkout planned. Instead, formal letters were drafted, individual, respectful, identical. Each worker requested clarification of deductions under existing labor law. Each letter cited hours worked and wages received. They were submitted on the same morning. 30 envelopes placed on one desk. Mr. Leong was not angry at first. He was confused. He summoned managers, then lawyers. Meetings stretched late into the night. Calculations were redone. Risks assessed. Government inspection was a possibility now. Quiet but real. The factory's reputation, once praised, felt suddenly fragile. On the following payday, envelopes were heavier, not generous, just correct. No announcement accompanied the change. No apology offered, but the deductions stopped. Back pay was included, labeled vaguely as adjustments. Workers counted carefully. For the first time in months, the numbers matched their notebooks. Mr. Leong never addressed the workers directly again. He spent less time on the floor. Managers softened their tone. Cameras remained, but enforcement relaxed. The factory continued operating. Orders shipped on time. From the outside, nothing had changed. Inside, something fundamental had shifted. Lorna said nothing about victory. She told no stories of courage. When asked, she only said the envelopes were correct now. At home, she paid the electric bill in full for the first time in weeks. Her children slept with the fan on, unaware of what had been risked. Other factories in the zone heard rumors, quiet ones, about letters, about records, about workers who understood the law without shouting it. Management meetings elsewhere began including new agenda items: compliance, documentation, prevention. No strikes occurred. No headlines followed. The change moved silently, like accounting entries. Economic justice did not arrive as a protest, but as math, as memory, as paper saved in plastic folders. It came without chants or banners. Only patience, only precision. The kind that foreign systems often underestimated in Filipino workers accustomed to surviving without guarantees. Mr. Leong eventually transferred oversight to a local executive. He remained an owner, distant and cautious. The margins narrowed slightly. The factory did not relocate. It adapted. The cost of underpayment, once invisible, had become measurable, and therefore unacceptable. Years later, new workers joined the line. They inherited a system already corrected. They never knew about the thinner envelopes or the whispered calculations. They only knew their pay arrived whole, that overtime was counted, that deductions were explained. They assumed this was normal. Lorna continued working until her eldest finished college. She left quietly without ceremony. On her last day, she threw away the old envelopes, except one, the lightest one. She kept it folded inside a book, not as proof, but as reminder. Factories measure value in output, speed, and cost. But sometimes, value is measured by what workers refuse to forget, by what they record, by what they submit politely, all at once. No confrontation, no speeches, just facts placed where they could no longer be ignored. The silent revolt never appeared on social media. No video captured it. No slogan defined it. Yet it altered contracts, practices, and expectations. It proved that even within rigid hierarchies, Dignity could assert itself quietly and still win. Foreign capital had entered with authority and leverage. It met no right, no resistance it could photograph. Instead, it encountered patience sharpened into precision, the kind of resistance that fits inside an envelope, the kind that survives audits and inspections. In the end, it was not anger that changed everything. It was one pay envelope, lighter than it should have been, and a group of workers who decided to count together silently until the numbers told the truth.